Building a RAG application is challenging, but do you know that what is the most challenging part? Once we build it and once we deploy into production, it is the most challenging because in the production we have to track a lot of things. For example, we have to track like what is the input, what is the output, what is the token size, and we have to trace is any exception have happened, right? We have to monitor our model, right? So building is one part, but really to monitor in production, to track everything step by step, it's another challenge. So how to do that? How to monitor your RAG application or any kind of generative application? So for that, we have a lot of tools we use in industry, but in this video, I'm discussing one of the important tool which generally we use is called MLflow. So how to leverage the capability of MLflow? What they have a power, right? So in this video, I'm going to discuss a very basic. I'm starting from the basic one, how to leverage the MLflow and how MLflow can help us in, especially in the generative AI application. Okay, so let's get started and let's discover the power, the capability of MLflow in generative AI application. Okay, all right. So let's get started and let's discover what is MLflow. What are the basic use case of MLflow and how the MLflow can help and how you can leverage the power of MLflow in generative AI application domain. Let's get started and let's understand. Okay, so here in this video we are going to learn about MLflow. What is MLflow? Okay, so first of all, before I talk about what is MLflow, the basic concept, I can show some code also. Okay, I want to discuss first the architecture of any RAG application or any generative AI application. Why I'm talking about architecture? Because this will help to understand the use case. Okay, so in a typical RAG application or typical Gen application, let's suppose this is your RAG application, right? This is your RAG application, and this RAG application talks to suppose LLM. In the backend, it can have LLM, right? And this RAG application has its own context, or you can say knowledge base. Okay, basically it is a vector database. It can, any vector database you can use, it is connected with that, right? And here it has some user, right, which connect we send the query to database RAG application. This is very simple and typical RAG application or GenAI application. Okay, here what is happening, let's suppose you have this whole piece. Okay, suppose this whole piece is getting deployed into production. Okay, so here what I here why I just want to establish a connection. Why, in what cases this MLflow can help in this RAG application? What is the connection here? That's what I want to explain here. Okay, so here what happening, just try to understand. Suppose this is in production. So here, let's suppose user has sent some query to RAG application. Okay, and I want to know, suppose I want to know entire detail that what are the query. Okay, what I need to know. Okay, so let me explain that. So I want to know, number one point I want to know in that with respect to that context, that what is my query. Okay, what are the user are sending query, and for that query what are the output generated by the LLM, by the application, right? And what the token size, I mean what is the output token, how many tokens were created by LLM, right? And what is the execution time, suppose how much time overall taken by the LLM or by RAG application or by LLM to produce that result. Okay, or let's suppose I want to find whether any error happened during this execution of request, any error happened or not happened, right? And what is complete execution time, right? And I want to know, apart from that, that uh, I want to understand the performance of my application. Okay, for example, I told, right, if you see the architecture here, RAG use some its context, its knowledge base, right? So in order to serve this query, RAG application load the document from the vector database, right? So in this context, I just want to understand that uh, if the data if application has been searched for document, what are the accuracy of my document, accuracy of context of my document from DB, from vector database, right? And if the query is number 7, suppose it has generating the response, is the response is accurate, is response is 100% accurate, or how it is I want to know the fairfulness, right? How it is a fair, how it is generated the fair response. So there are a lot of things, these all matrices, okay, there are a lot of things that we can monitor. We need some tool, we need some way so that I can monitor, right, this everything which I'm talking about with respect to this context. What is my query, what is my output generated, what is the token size, because LLM use token, how many token it is generating for per request, and per request what is the execution time, any error happened, then how to log the error, right? And what are the performance matrices, like what is the accuracy of my document, what is the response flow, and there are a lot of things we can measure. So this MLflow, what I'm talking about is whole matrices, okay? You need some tool, right? In order to do that, we need some tool, right? What we need some tools, right, to monitor my GenAI application, right? Or you can say a RAG application in production, especially in, I'm talking about in the production case. In the development time, it is not so important, but in production, uh, because maybe your application is being used by a lot of users, there are a lot of requests are coming, right? So how to measure the performance, whether my model is performing well, there's no any performance degradation, what are the, these all matrices we can measure. We can say we can trace, it is called tracing, okay? Or we can log everything, okay? And then after tracing, we can analyze this log, okay? We can analyze this tracing and log, and we can see that whether my model is performing well, my application is performing well, is any bottleneck with respect to performance. These all measures I want to take care. So how to do that? For that, we have a tool called uh, MLflow. There are multiple tools, by the way, okay? There are multiple tools in the industry we use, but one of the tool is MLflow. This is which I'm going to talk about, okay? Apart from MLflow, there are other tools like there's a TrueLens. This is also a good this is also a good tool to evaluate the, it is evaluation matrix for a RAG application, okay? And there's a ragas also, which also help to measure the performance of our generative application, okay? And there's a lag smith, if you're using a lag, suppose LangFlow, there's a Lang Smith server which also help to track this traces, okay? There are multiple things we can use, okay? So here we are, especially in this video, I'm going to talk about especially for the MLflow. What is the MLflow and how to use MLflow? I hope you understand as of now. You have discovered the use cases, right? What are the use cases? I think these are the use cases I discussed for which we use MLflow, okay? And how to use it, okay? So I will show the code, don't worry. But before I talk about code and everything, I want to give a very basic concepts, okay? Very basic concepts of MLflow, which is very basic. Though you can go to the website, you will find all the documentation. It's very nice documentation is there, okay? But here I'm giving you very simple concepts, okay? So how it works, okay? Especially with respect to tracing. Suppose you want to use trace. Tracing means you really want to log all the requests. You want to see the request and response, right? For that we use trace API. I will show you, I will show the use case, okay? I will show the code also, don't worry. So in tracing, there are some few concepts. I will show that, okay? So if you see the API, if you go, if you see the API of MLflow, okay, there are a couple of things I thought let's discuss now. The first thing is called trace, okay? I will show you what is trace, okay? So first it will create a trace. So trace is nothing but a request and response cycle, okay? This is called trace. And under a trace, it create multiple child. It is called span. In terms of MLflow, it is called a span. Okay. So this span is nothing but the real execution. What is called? Real execution of your model. Okay. Let's suppose you're using a RAG model. Suppose you're using a LangChain, right? Suppose you're just calling a LLM model. It can be anything, right? So how the real execution happening? So that details come here. And trace is more like a very high level detail, high level record about this whole execution. And underneath trace, it has a span which contains the actual execution. Don't worry, I will show the exact thing what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is a very basic, I would say, setup or API in MLflow. Okay, how the MLflow works? In suppose if you really want to work, you really want to do installation. Okay, let me talk about the installation part. How to install it and what are the different way to installation. Okay, so number one way is the local. You can install your MLflow in the local server. I mean your local machine. Another is first is the local way. Second is you can deploy the MLflow into cloud. Okay, into cloud or in the cloud you can. It is called self-hosted. Either you can use some cloud, like you can use EC2 instance where you can deploy this MLflow. Okay, they also have a uh, managed service where you don't have to do deployment, this all thing. For example, data brick. Okay, they have a managed version also. Okay, so there are multiple options you can use where you can install. Okay, so in this video I'm going to talk about the local part, how to do the local installation. Is very simple. Okay, so here how it works. So let's suppose this is your application. Suppose this is my uh, suppose I'm giving an example of RAG application. It can be any application. Okay, it can be RAG, it can be simple LangChain application. Okay, it's simple. Suppose you're calling OpenAI. Okay, it can be anything. Suppose this is an application. Okay, and this application, and there is a user, there will be a client which is calling the RAG application. Okay, and maybe behind the scene it is calling LLM. This part is your application, your own your application stack. Okay, and and here there will be another server. Okay, it can be local server or cloud server, anything, where it is the MLflow. Okay, so MLflow instance, this will be outside of your application. Okay, so how this is your application, and this is your MLflow server. So this local application connect with the MLflow server. Okay, and locally, whenever your application is serving the request, suppose you serving any query by the user. Okay, it will produce some artifacts. Okay, locally. Okay, I'm talking about from the local installation perspective. So in local, it will produce some artifacts. Okay, so you can say some files. Very in a layman term, it will produce some files which is related to MLflow. These files are produced by MLflow within your application. Okay, and these files are nothing but these all the matrices which I talk about, right? What is the query, what is the output, whatever you want to measure, whatever you want to track, everything is produced by as an artifact, as a file by MLflow internally within your application. Okay, and these all files are observed or seen by this server, which is remote server, and then MLflow will create a kind of matrices or kind of, you can say, dashboard, right, to understand your all the matrices. This is a typical flow, how it happens. Okay, so these all matrices, the files, it can be hosted on the cloud, it can be hosted in the bucket also. Suppose you want to use like GCP bucket or Amazon, whatever bucket, you can host it. It's a different installation, but let's stick in this video, let's stick to a local installation. Okay, so this is what happens with respect to MLflow. Okay, so I hope now, as of now, you guys are able to understand what is MLflow, what are the use cases, and for what purpose we use MLflow, how to integrate the MLflow in within your generative AI application, RAG application. I hope you have the clarity. Okay, now I'm going to show you whatever I talk about right now. It's only theory part. Let me show you the real practical example. Okay, how to do that, how to build application with the RAG, with the MLflow. Okay, so guys, what you need to do, just go here. Uh, there's an official site for MLflow. Okay, there are a lot of things we can do with MLflow. We can do like like tracing, we can do evolution. There are a lot of component. Okay, but in this video I'm going to cover, I'm covering just one part, which is the tracing part. Okay, how to do that. So for that, let me show how to do that. So I have an application for that. Okay, I have built a small application. Don't worry, this whole application, the source code is available in my GitHub. I will share the link of GitHub. You can go and download the entire code. Okay, but here in this here try to understand. Here just try to understand the concept here. One second. Okay, just try to understand the concept. Okay, so here you can see that this is the application I have already built. Okay, so here you have to you need some like MLflow. You can see you need some library. So this is the dependency you have to put in requirement file MLflow, and once you install it, okay, then it will install the MLflow. So what you have to do, just go and do pip install MLflow. Okay, and this MLflow will be activated or will be installed in your application. I hope you, if you know the Python how to build application, I hope you know that. I'm not going to cover that. Okay, and after that, what you need to do once you've done that, then open a command prompt. Okay, for example, you can see that this is my application, MLflow tracing. Activate your virtual environment. Okay, and then you have to type here MLflow UI. Okay, what it will do, I discussed, right? This MLflow, this MLflow are creating some artifacts or files within your application. Okay, you can see that these are some artifacts like ML runs. Okay, these are the ML runs. Okay, so this artifacts has been produced by MLflow. So this artifact is nothing but all the matrices I discussed in the presentation, right? It is all the matrices which are consumed by the remote server or MLflow to produce the dashboard. Okay, so here in the, yeah, so open a new command prompt, and in this prompt just run this command MLflow UI, and it will create a server. Okay, so MLflow create it gives you a server. Right now it is in localhost, but you can deploy it to EC2 or remote server also. Okay, so you can see it will give this by default it opens on 5,000 port. So you can go to the port, right? For example here, so this is the, it is the interface like this. Let me refresh this. Okay, so it will give you, you can see that for example at a trace, right? I was talking about trace, right? Let me go there. Let me again connect with, yeah, I was talking about this, right? Traces, right? It produces the traces of your application, and underneath traces there are a lot of a span or a lot of execution path. That's what I was discussing. So you can see here, so this is one of the trace for this experiment, for this project. It produced one trace. Okay, so this trace is nothing but it is capturing all that detail about your application. For example, what is the request, what is the response generated, and how much time you took to create this response. Okay, and what are the important tags. Okay, and if you open this trace, under a trace there is a child. So this is the child I'm talking about. It is called a span. Okay, so these are the span, and this span will give you complete execution detail. For example, if you're calling your application, then what is happening under hood, what is happening behind the scene? It is going to trace every call. Okay, every subsequent call. Okay, and you can see that this is one call. So here I can see this is my input, this is my output. It is producing all the output. Okay, and it is then it is calling LLM. This is actual, it is calling the OpenAI, and for the OpenAI, what are the user input, what is the output produced by LLM, and this is the input. Okay, this is the input I have seen, and what is that model, what is the OpenAI temperature, max token, everything. It is going to produce some attributes. So it is helping me to just find everything about my application, how many tokens we have used, what is the temperature, what is the input, and what is the output, okay, and what is the flow. Okay, so let me explain this code, this how to use that. So first thing, you have to add this dependency and then do pip install. It will install all the dependency. Okay, and how to use an action, how to do a coding with that is very simple. It's very simple. So for example, I'm giving one example. Okay, let me go to my here. And okay, so what I'm trying to do here, I have built one simple application. Okay, so first of all, let me talk about this application. This is very simple application I have built. Okay, so what I'm doing here, I have built one component in LangChain. It's very simple. Okay, I'm using a LangChain application. Okay, and this LangChain application is talking to LLM. This is my application I have built, right? This is my application, and here it can be a user which is sending a query or input. Okay, and this LangChain will it is calling, in my case I'm calling OpenAI. It can be anything, it can be Google AI, it can be anything. Maybe I'm calling OpenAI. Okay, so this is a very simple application I have used here: LangChain, LLM, user, and this all thing. So my purpose here is using MLflow to trace. I want to trace everything. Whenever any user comes here and they ask for they interact with my application, LangChain application. So I want to find what is the query the user has sent, and for this query, what are the output has been generated by application. At the same time, I want to trace this whole execution, that LLM. Okay, LLM is what the input the LLM I'm sending. This application is sending which input to LLM, and this LLM is what output it is generating, right? And what is the token size it is generating the LLM, and what is the execution time by LLM, right? I want to see the temperature used to interact with this LLM. Suppose you're using some kind of configuration like max token, temperature, everything. You can trace everything, right? So here for every request, suppose here in this case, there could be multiple requests, right? For this application, I can, in production, it can have multiple requests. So for each request, I want to find these all matrices. Why I'm finding these matrices? So that I can perform, I can check whether my application in production, how it is behaving. Is there any production glitch? Is it performing well or not? Okay, so basically I really want to monitor my application in my production. So that is why I'm using MLflow. So how to capture this all matrices using this tool called MLflow. I hope you got the clarity about my application. Okay, so let me show my application right now. What I'm doing here is very basic, very simple application. So you can see here, I have just one function. Okay, it is accepting a message. It can be a user query, right? And here, if you see the context, so here I'm calling, this is my OpenAI token. Okay, and here I'm using OpenAI API. It's very simple. Okay, it is not a long LangChain, simple OpenAI. Okay, I'm just using OpenAI. Okay, it is a very basic application, not a LangChain. So here I'm calling OpenAI, and I'm using here I'm using client OpenAI client.chat.completion. Okay, so it's a very basic, very minimum OpenAI application where I'm trying to trying to call OpenAI. Okay, using client API, and I'm using this model, I'm this message. So this all thing I want to trace. What is the model has been used? What is the message? What is the temperature? What is the max token has been used by LLM? Okay, this what? So I'm just calling this LLM. I'm getting the response. I'm sending this response back to user. It's a very simple, very simple application. Okay, but here during this application, I want to trace everything. Okay, I want to trace any conversation history. Okay, I want to trace any kind of what is the total time taken. I want to trace total token count. What is the total token has been used? Which model has been used? Apart from that, you can trace whatever depending upon your need. This totally depends upon your requirement, that what are the matrices, what are the uh, attributes you really want to log, so that you can measure it later. Okay, so this is a way we can handle it. So how to do that? So here there are a couple of things I want to talk about. This is very handy, this is very useful, auto logging. Okay, so here you don't have to write much code, they provide you option to auto logging. It's a complete, there are two way to log. This is called manual logging. Let me discuss about it. Okay, so if you really want to create this logs, okay, there are two ways. Okay, logs, there are two ways. First is called manual logging, it is called manual tracing. Okay, and second is called automatic tracing. So if you go to the API, MLflow API, okay, if you read the MLflow API, they will talk about there are two types of tracing. So in the manual tracing, what you have to do, you have to manually trace, or you have to manually write code to log all the attributes. So they provide you multiple annotation. Okay, they are providing multiple annotation, like you can set some tags. Suppose you want to set some tags, you want to set some attribute, right? They provide some methods you can do manually. Otherwise, there's another way which is very simple, automatic tracing. Okay, so how to enable automatic tracing? In case of automatic tracing, you don't have to write this code, they do automatically. The framework, the MLflow itself do manually, automatically. So that is why here I have written MLflow OpenAI auto log. Okay, so it will log all the important thing, important attributes, important parameters which are used by calling the OpenAI. Okay, though you can do manually also. And apart from that, and here one thing is, you can combine. Okay, let's suppose you want to do manual plus automatic both. So both this manual plus automatic, you can both combine. I mean, you can do both. You can do manual tracing as well as you can do automatic tracing as well. Both is possible. Okay, so here I'm doing both. Okay, so here I'm writing manual. This is called automatic tracing that I'm doing by this code. Okay, and at the same time I'm also doing manual tracing. So how to enable manual tracing? You have to use this annotation at the rate of mlflow.trace. Okay, so once you write it trace, it will create a trace for this call, this function call, and underneath you can see, you can hear I'm creating some tags. Okay, so there are two concepts. One thing I want to talk about, let me talk about this. So there are two things you can log. Okay, what you can log, what you can log or trace. So the API, I have seen that the API provide two things. Number one is called tags. You can create tags in trace, okay, or you can create attributes. I have seen these two things. So they provide, so either you can create tags or either you can create attributes. So I will show you. Okay, the trace, you will find these two details in trace. There will be some tags, there will be some attributes. Okay, so that's what here I'm doing in my code. So here I'm creating some tags. This is a tags I'm creating. Okay, that's all. I'm not creating any attributes here, but I will show you that attributes are getting created by default using automatic logging, automatic tracing. Okay, so this is my simple code. Okay, right, and it is then you have to set the tracking URL. Whether tracking URL talks about where is your MLflow instance, it is on local or it can be remote also. Okay, and then you have to create an experiment. Okay, we can see here I'm creating one experiment. So this is one of the experiment. Okay, data gigs GenAI experiment. This is one experiment. So the experiment will come here. Okay, and under experiment, you can see multiple traces. Okay, so for example, let me delete this trace. I just created some time back. So right now there is no trace. Okay, under this experiment there is no trace. Okay, now this is my trace name. This is my remote. This is my MLflow server. Now I'm calling this method. Okay, and this method will have the trace enable. It has automatic tracing. It has a manual tracing. Both is enabled, and I'm creating some tags here. Okay, and here I'm just in this flow. I'm just calling OpenAI. It's very simple application. I'm just calling OpenAI or using a client API. Okay, how to do that? Just I have a I have another command prompt, okay, and here I'm just calling my function, my Python, my function basically. So this function will create all the traces, okay. I'm just calling the OpenAI, okay. You can see that it is creating yeah, I got the response, okay. So my query was, let me show the code. So what I did here, so while calling this function, I have to pass the message, okay, the input. So my message is like this, okay. You can see I'm calling it. So user is sending this message that explain the concept of back propagation in the neural network. This is my query, okay. So I'm calling this function with this message, I'm getting the response, okay. So during this call, I just want to track everything. So for that, I'm using what is called MLflow, right? So you can see here, let me refresh the page. You can see here, just now, 41 seconds ago, it created one trace, okay. And in this trace, you can see that it has what the request what use, I mean what is the message by user, and what is the response, how much time it took, okay. Everything got logged, and what are the tags, whatever tags I created in the here in the code, right? These all tags has been there. These all tags, okay. You can customize it, you can create your own tag. And the base part, just open it. This is one trace, right? If you click it, so under a trace, there's a multiple child. It is called a span, okay. And under a span, you can see exact execution. For example, chat completion, right? You can see for this span, what is the input output. So the input is this, user has sent this input, right? Explain the concept of back propagation in neural network. This was the input. So it is logging everything. And for this input, what is the corresponding output? It is logging the output also, okay. It is giving me this message by OpenAI. And the below the underneath at the bottom level, I'm calling OpenAI, okay. So this span is corresponding for OpenAI call. I mean, my application is calling OpenAI. So at the OpenAI level, at the LLM level, what is happening, what is going on? So at the LLM level, I send request, I send this message to LLM, I mean OpenAI, and OpenAI assistant given me this response. You can see it is logging everything. And for LLM, what is the input? So this is the input, right? I got this input. This is the input. And for this input, what are the configuration for LLM? What are the temperature? What are the token? This is all thing I have configured. So everything I'm logging here, right? Choices, you can see this is the it is producing all the output, right? Which model it had been used, GPT 3.5, right? This everything it is logging. And attributes, okay. See, in my code, I have not created any attributes. I'm not setting any attribute, okay. Here I'm just setting the tags. I'm not setting any attribute. So this attribute has been set by auto logging. This code is responsible to create the attributes, okay. See, so here what are the attribute while calling the OpenAI, the LLM? These are the attribute: temperature, token, model. This all thing is captured by MLflow. It is called auto logging. You can do manually also. If you really want to do in the code, you can log, you can create attributes and you can set it. Otherwise, basically MLflow takes care of everything. If you do auto logging, it will done by the LLM itself, okay. So these are the use case, these are the use of MLflow, okay. So why it is important? It is important, let me talk about that. I hope you understand the flow. And this source code is available in my GitHub. You can go to GitHub and the link is there in the description. You can download it, okay. So let me conclude what you learned in this video, okay. Why we use MLflow? The number one is for tracing. We can trace every execution, right? Because I discussed in the beginning, right? Your application is talking to LLM, right? So what is happening behind the execution flow? For every request, I can trace and I can find the performance. Okay, I can measure the performance matrices. There's a concept called we can evaluate the performance of model. This is another concept which I'm not covering here. Okay, so this everything, why this all record we need in production so that I can monitor my application pretty well, because monitoring is very important part of any application. Okay, so this is a use case of using uh, MLflow. I hope you got a lot of clarity in this video. Okay, so this is all in this video. I hope you find a lot of learning in this video, and I will keep coming. And if you like this video, please subscribe my channel. It will help me to grow. Okay, so this is all in this video. This is Raj. I will come back with more video. Till then, goodbye. Take care. Keep learning.